Two major press conferences by two key US allies delivered from opposite ends of the world are sending a remarkably consistent message to the global community on Iran war. This is not their war and they will not be drawn into it. From London, Keir Starmer made Britain's position unequivocal during his address at the Downing Street, stressing that despite mounting geopolitical pressure, the United Kingdom will avoid direct military involvement in the escalating West Asia conflict. His remarks were not just about strategic restraint abroad, but about economic urgency at home, as he drew a clear and deliberate connection between instability in the Strait of Hormuz and the worsening cost of living crisis facing British households. Starmer emphasized that disruption in critical global energy routes are already translating into higher fuel prices, increased household energy bills, and broader inflationary pressures across the US economy. Meanwhile, in Canberra, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese struck a more cautionary and sobering tone in his national address, acknowledging that although Australia is not directly involved in the conflict, it cannot remain unaffected by its economic ripple. Albanese warned that the impact of an Iran-linked escalation will not be short-lived, with rising petrol and diesel prices expected to persist and place sustained pressure on households. The Prime Minister focused on preparing the public for a prolonged period of uncertainty, emphasizing resilience and the need to manage expectations in an increasingly interconnected global economy.
Understand that right now it's hard to be positive. The war in the Middle East has caused the biggest spike in petrol and diesel prices in history. Australia is not an active participant in this war, but all Australians are paying higher prices because of it. I know that you're seeing this at the servo and at the supermarket, and I understand farmers and truckies, small businesses and families are doing it tough. And the reality is, the economic shocks caused by this war will be with us for months. Tonight I want to speak directly with you about what the government is doing to shield Australia in these uncertain times. On Monday, National Cabinet adopted the National Fuel Security Plan. Leaders from both sides of politics, from right around the country, working together to keep Australia moving, making sure that we are prepared so that if the global situation gets worse and our fuel supplies are seriously disrupted over the long term, we can coordinate the next steps together. Today, we cut the fuel excise in half, cutting the tax on every litre of petrol by 26 cents. Those savings have started showing up at your petrol station. The months ahead may not be easy. I want to be upfront about that. No government can promise to eliminate the pressures that this war is causing. I can promise we will do everything we can to protect Australia from the worst of it. These are uncertain times, but I'm absolutely certain of this. We will deal with these global challenges the Australian way, working together and looking after each other.
The conflict in the Middle East has now entered a second month, and while we're working at pace for de-escalation and peace, it is now clear that the impact of this war will affect the future of our country. So today I want to reassure the British people that no matter how fierce this storm, we are well placed to weather it, and that we have a long-term plan to emerge from it a stronger and more secure nation. First, let me say once again, this is not our war. We will not be drawn into the conflict. That is not in our national interest. And the most effective way we can support the cost of living in Britain is to push for de-escalation in the Middle East and a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which is such a vital route for energy. To that end, we're exploring each and every diplomatic avenue that is available to us. The Foreign Secretary and the Chancellor have met their counterparts in the G7. The Defence Secretary has been in the Middle East speaking to our partners. And the UK has now brought together 35 nations around our statement of intent to push as one for maritime security across the Gulf. And today I can announce that later this week, the Foreign Secretary will host a meeting that brings those nations together for the first time, where we will assess all viable diplomatic and political measures that we can take to restore freedom of navigation, guarantee the safety of trapped ships and seafarers, and resume the movement of vital commodities.
Together, these two addresses reflect a broader strategic posture emerging among Western allies, one that prioritizes de-escalation over military engagement, while simultaneously focusing on mitigating the domestic economic fallout of a distant conflict. Both leaders are acknowledging a new reality in global geopolitics, that even without direct participation in war, nations remain deeply exposed to its consequences through energy markets, supply chains and inflationary pressure. But more important than that, is the issue of the position taken by Starmer. Now, I'm joined by Ambassador Veena Sikri, Ambassador Ujjwal Singh Bhatia, and Major General Sudhakarji. I'll begin with Ambassador Sikri. Ambassador Sikri, can I say, is this the first time that there's big and deep difference of opinion on such an issue between UK and United States of America, madam? And for him to say that he'll organize a meeting, his foreign secretary will organize a meeting of friendly countries to resolve this issue, what is this telling us about isolation of Donald Trump?
Yes, it is. I agree. I mean, it is the first time that the NATO allies have been have broken away from each other on this point. It is true that this was preceded by President Trump himself throwing the NATO allies under the bus on several other issues and not really living up to the solidarity with the NATO allies, asking them to pay more money, saying you guys are not spending enough on defense. Right from the time, even in the first term, but much more in the second term, he has been pressing the NATO allies on spending more on defense and saying that America is not going to go on paying for you. So that the differences were building up. And but this time on during the Iran war, during the attack by US and Israel on Iran, when President Trump asked the NATO allies to step in, especially for the Strait of Hormuz, they blankly said no. And this really showed up President Trump as being isolated. It was not a very pretty picture. And of course, President Trump has then, first he said he wanted to head the Strait of Hormuz. When Iran said that they're going to control the Strait of Hormuz, President Trump actually came in and said, no, I think America will head it. We'll take it over. But then clearly when he had no allies, he couldn't do it himself. So now he said, I'm abandoning the Strait of Hormuz, and he's, as we know, that Prime Minister Keir Starmer is doing a meeting this weekend to bring in interested countries in the Strait of Hormuz to see what can be done. It is a very difficult moment. Today, this evening, tomorrow morning, India time, President Trump is making his address to the nation at 9 p.m. USA time, and there's a lot of speculation on what he's going to be saying. Whether he's going to really announce an exit, I doubt it, because he now has about 50,000 troops in the region, 40,000 originally, with about 10,000 more having come in through the paratroopers, yes, through the Marine Expeditionary Units and additional troops as well. So is he going to just make them all walk away from the region, or is he going to announce his boots on the ground policy for another 2 weeks and then he leaves the region? Because he has said also that he can leave the war even if there is no deal with Iran, because he has achieved the objective of regime change. We know that there is no regime change. The IRGC is still there. The supreme leader, there's a new supreme leader, of course, but it's from the same family as the old supreme leader, the same group of people. So formally speaking, okay, there is no systemic regime change. But yes, it is a very important moment of isolation for USA. We're still waiting to see what he's going to say.
Oh yes, that's tomorrow at 7:30. Let me take a quick comment from Ujjwal Singh Bhatia. Ambassador Bhatia, there is one import of both the press conferences, that even if there is a ceasefire tomorrow, the economic impact will be very, very deep. Do you think that this war has truly disrupted the global economy in terms of energy infrastructure, security, and global supply chains?
There is no doubt about that. The question is how much damage, and that we will know when the war ends. And as of now, there is no certainty regarding its end, because on the one hand, Mr. Trump is signaling that he is ready to move out within 2-3 weeks, but on the other hand, something like 50,000 US troops have moved into the region, and we can only speculate how this will all end up. But there is understandable anger in the rest of the world, including among US allies, as to why this war has begun in the first place, and why and they are struggling to understand the consequences for their economies. But let us be very sure that the consequences will be severe even if it ends tomorrow. As of now, Mr. Trump's approach is, I broke it, now you fix it. And that can only add to anger, not only among US allies, but in the rest of the world. So the consequences are going to be severe. As far as India is concerned, for the moment, we are all right. As far as, say, fertilizers for the Kharif season are concerned, we are all right for gas and petroleum. But if the war continues, we will have to face the consequences of increased prices and supply shortages and so on. So I think we need to keep our fingers crossed for the moment, but certainly we will have to live with these consequences for quite some time.
Okay. General Sudhakarji, I don't know whether NATO is alive or dead because it's being rebuked and hectored by Donald Trump continuously. But what I want to know from you is, who needs NATO more, Trump or Europe?
Yeah, good evening, Karthik. Thank you for inviting me for your show, and my very warm greetings to distinguished co-panelists. Yes, NATO, to my understanding, has collapsed. NATO means what? NATO is based on the paradigm of transatlantic relationship. Okay, so Europe alone is no good for NATO. It is as good as non-existent without USA. So since USA, earlier we used to call it a fracture in the relationship, now I'm saying it is not a fracture. It is the amputation of the limbs of NATO. They have permanently been severed from the main body. So Europe, with 27 countries, or the NATO members, you have 32 of them now. 32 countries minus USA means nothing. It is defunct. It is incapable of facing any kind of threat and bring in to galvanize the global effort. The need of the hour, Karthikeya, to my understanding, if you allow me, this chaos must be taken advantage of by the leaders of the global south. The BRICS is being chaired by India. India, this is a golden opportunity to capitalize on the countries which have fallen apart from NATO. We have already gone in for a free trade agreement with the European Union, as also UK, as also what is called EFTA, that willy-nilly the whole of Europe is with India. Why doesn't India take the flank of global south and go on to leverage this particular fracture, or you call it as amputation, of the largest alliance which was in existence since post-Cold War? This is a golden opportunity we must capitalize. Second point that comes to my mind, if you have time, is that it is not only Donald Trump cannot get away with whatever he is doing. I quite admire the distinguished ambassador who made a point that he has broken and now you fix it. That's not the way the international rule of game to be taken and adopted by one and all. I personally feel all the like-minded countries, the whole of world must get together. United Nations, yes, it is a defunct organization, but there is some semblance. Something is better than nothing. Let this platform of United Nations and Security Council be taken advantage of, and we don't exploit, we capitalize with whatever strengths we have. And we need to confront Donald Trump. How long is he going to take the entire world order to ransom? He's holding everyone to ransom. Third point I have is that more you go along with this thought process, more silence, they call it a strategic silence. The strategic silence in such kind of situation is highly not detrimental. It is catastrophic. It is catastrophic. Why? all the counter strategy that he had worked out, be it the China plus one, be it, de-risking and what do you call that, diversification of your investment and companies and the multinationals. Now, instead of de-risking and diversification, you are willy-nilly enhancing your dependency on China. Any warlike store which is being used by USA, mind you, Kartik, you will call me after 90 days, not 90 days, 60 days to be precise. USA will be on the knees. It will not have Patriot missile. It will not have Tomahawk missile. It will not have interceptors. The Iron Dome of Israel is going to lie defunct like a normal barricade which can be encroached upon by normal the trespassers.
Okay.
That is what I am saying. Your dependency on China has multiplied in last 30 days by not X factor, I would say by 200 times.
Okay.
You don't have time, otherwise I have got the statistics ready.
No, I'll come to you. I'll come to you. I have time for one more round because you used the word global south. Ambassador Sikri and I was watching an interview. I'm not going to name the organization. One reputed journalist, another a very well-known foreign policy expert said, global south is dead. And I'm not naming the organization. I'm not going to get into that. But, a lot of people saying the war shows that there is no global south. That's the truth of the war. Do you agree, madam?
No, I don't agree with that at all. I think India's chairmanship of BRICS has shown the difficulties in coordinating a single position, even in the BRICS group, on the question of the conflict between USA and Israel on one hand and Iran on the other. Because every country is looking at the nuance of the situation. Every country knows that what President Trump's reactions are in terms of tariffs, enhancement, and so on and so forth. So every country is taking time to come to an agreement. But the last 4 weeks and now plus the 5th week has shown that the longevity of the adverse impacts of the war, this is now becoming more and more apparent. Earlier it wasn't, everybody thought, okay, it'll be short, few days, the Supreme Leader Khomeini was killed on the very first day, February 28th, and so it was there. But now, since the long-term adverse impacts are becoming so brutally clear, as the Australian Prime Minister said, it's going to take months. Even if the war ends tomorrow, it's going to take months to restore normalcy. Even to get shipping through the Straits of Hormuz is going to take months. We don't even know what Iran's position is going to be on their control of the Straits of Hormuz. They claim to be charging $2 million for some ships to sail through. So all this is really a very unnecessary complication. And I think the world countries are prepared to get together to ensure this never happens again.
A lot of people are saying, madam, that this is the net effect of the war. There was no tax before the war. Now there is a Hormuz tax which people have to pay. But I would say the bigger issue is the declaration of Iran. What Iran has said, and I think the deadline is tonight, Ambassador Bhatia. They will target 18 American tech companies in UAE. I mean, so they have set a target. You leave, vacate the office, or all these areas where you operate from will be targeted. So I mean to say the situation is really very precarious.
Well, clearly there are no prohibitions on either side. Both sides have targeted civilian facilities, and we are now relearning the rules of war in an adverse way. I think many of these are negotiating tactics to build leverage. We don't know whether the Iranians will be targeting such facilities, but certainly there is a fear that this is going to happen. One clear lesson that many countries have now learned is that you cannot outsource your national security. The NATO partners have learned this. The Europeans outsourced their security to the United States, and the Gulf states thought they had a security umbrella because of the petrodollar situation from the United States. Both these assumptions have been falsified. I think there is no alternative for all countries to look after their national security interest in their own particular ways. But coming back to your question, I think sadly, there are no red lines in this war. This is becoming more and more of a dirty war, and we can only hope that it ends very, very quickly.
I really don't know, General Sudhakarji. I know it's a military question. Like for example, 82nd Marine Expeditionary Force, they have also deployed a contingent of 810 Warthogs in West Asia. I mean to say, these are armor breakers. I mean to say, you know, they have the capacity to demolish armor. Why do you deploy them if, you know, if you want an exit, if you want a deal, or if you want a negotiation, then why do you deploy this sort of a weaponry? 810 Warthogs.
Karthikeya, you are raising very important and brilliant questions. Unfortunately, time doesn't permit. And if I start one part of the answer, it will finish midway. So you see, you got to join the dots. You know, you see, look at the intent. Intent of Donald Trump. Let me quickly reflect so that you can join the dot, you will come to an inference. What am I trying to say? 29th December 2025, Netanyahu goes to meet Donald Trump at
Mar-a-Lago
in Florida.
Yes.
Nobody knows, no media knows what transpired. They sat together for more than 3 hours, and within, I think, 48 hours or so, slow mobilization, incremental mobilization of US armed forces begin. I'll go fast forward. There are many things to actually say. 13th of January 2026. There is a very important meeting either in Pentagon or White House takes place. You have Tulsi Gabbard, you have Pete Hegseth, you have Marco Rubio, and all relevant key appointments. What was the purpose of the meeting? It was to explain to Donald Trump that Iran did not pose any threat to USA. Donald Trump came out of the hall mighty impressed that, okay, fine, will not do anything. Iran is no longer a threat. Okay, there are many things which happened between 13th of January 2026 till 26th of February. Time doesn't permit, but I'll come straight away, fast forward to 26th of February 2026. The foreign minister of Oman, who's the interlocutor, tell me if I am wrong. I would like to correct myself. I am as much a student as anybody is. 26th of February, he air dashes to USA. For what? To go and tell Donald Trump that the talk to at Geneva has brought the world to a very substantive and conclusive kind of an end state. Iran has agreed to every demand regarding the nuclear.
You're saying that America never wanted a peace plan.
No,
it wanted a war of its own.
Okay, he could not beat Donald Trump. He beats J.D. Vance. He said, why are you mobilizing these forces? We have come to some kind of a substantive solution for the first time in this maddening kind of an issue.
Okay.
Iran is agreed to everything.
Okay.
They don't last point, Karthikeya, just last point. And thereafter, on 27th, he gets back to Oman. He makes an announcement that we are almost there. It's a win-win case. On 28th morning at 8:15, the bombing takes place. Okay. The head of the state is taken care of. Okay. So if this is what is happening, the intent of Donald Trump is, he knows he started with 4 days, went on to 6 days, then 7 days, 14 days. Now 1 month is over, second month. What is the intent of Donald Trump? Donald Trump is there for a long haul. That is to be understood.
Okay, Ambassador Sikri, you raised your hand. I only have a minute left, madam.
No, I was talking about the fault lines that have come into being as a result of this war. If you just take even the Middle East itself, today Iraq is joining Iran and they are together against the Gulf countries, you know. So you have, on the other hand, in addition to what General Sudhakarji has just said, it is Saudi Arabia and UAE who are supposed to be putting maximum pressure after Israel on USA, saying, continue, finish the job. You know, they want Iran to be completely weakened so that they do not face this threat. But Iraq has now joined Iran because Iraq is also, attacking the American bases, not only on that territory, but also their militias are doing it. So the fault lines are so many that have appeared out of nowhere. And that is what is making it seem as though the South does not exist anymore. But I think it also highlights the importance of the South finding their common factors again, especially on the economic front, because if they don't stay together, they will all perish separately, you know. Okay. So I think that is the most important message that has to be there, that while each one will recover in its own manner from the economic impact of this war, even in recovering, we have to be together. Because there's so many ways in which we can share that impact of the recovery to make it easier for the South countries of the South.
Thank you all of you.